Okay, what's up, YouTube? I've been having some technical difficulties here, so let's start all over again. All right, so it is raining over here. It is Thursday. I was trying to get the weather widget up. Anyways, Thursday, January 28th. I'm not sure if you guys can see that or not. My battery has 85% life left on this watch, which means it's going to go another 10 days or so. This watch, once you fully charge it, goes between 12 to 14 days. So you only have to charge this watch twice a month. It's a great watch. GPS, triathlons, navigation. Gosh, you can drive with this watch, bike with it, swim with it, wear it in the shower. It's got a soft, comfortable band. The Garmin Fenix 5X, brand new. They're about $600. You can find them on Amazon for about $350 or less if you're lucky. I've seen them for about $400. I've seen them for $350. I got this one for $285, brand new, and it's worth every penny because I like the GPS factor. I like the battery life. I like that you can change the faces. I like the sapphire crystal. It's like a scratch resistant crystal. Very cool watch. Just tough to beat. But that's not what this video is about. I just do that to verify the time and date. January 28th, Thursday, in the year of our Lord 2020. All right, so back to the gun. To answer questions as it relates to the Sauer P220 in 45 ACP. Okay, last time I did a video, which wasn't that long ago, just a few weeks ago, people commented. I had a lot of views and a lot of likes. So just to cover some facts, not just my opinion. The last time I think I was just talking about the 45 caliber, how that's my favorite cartridge or whatever. That's just my opinion. I like the 45. If you like 9mm, more power to you. If you like other calibers, 40 caliber, 10mm, more power to you. I also like those other calibers. I own a 40 caliber gun, a 9mm gun, and then I have a couple of 45s. I have actually 3 guns in 45 ACP, 1 gun in 9mm, and then 1 gun in 40 caliber for sidearms. Okay, so I shoot the 9mm well, I shoot the 40 caliber well. I really like 357 Magnum. I just don't currently own a 357 Magnum handgun. One day I'll get one. And I might get even another 9mm gun because I want to get a M9 Beretta because that's what I was issued in the Marine Corps, and I shoot that well. And I like that gun. So it's more of a nostalgia thing because I got out of the Marine Corps in 2006, but I went in 1985. Okay, so when I first went in, we had the 45 ACP, which was the old 1911A1. And then while I was in service, we transitioned to the Beretta M9 and 9mm. Okay, and that kind of partly covers some of the stuff that we're going to talk about when it comes to this pistol right here, the Sauer P220 R meaning for rail. Okay, so let's talk about facts, the history of the gun, when, where, who made it, why they made it, the whole 9 yards. Okay, so what I did was I did some research so that I would get these facts correctly. So I have sources that I can cite, different articles and so forth. Also my own personal knowledge, because I've owned this gun since 2013. It's 2021 now. I've shot it all those years. It's my main duty sidearm. I alternate with this between this and the Glock 21 SF, which is also my other go-to main duty sidearm, which I also appreciate that one very well. But we're going to talk about this gun right now because there were some questions last time that I did a video pertaining to the Sauer or the 45 ACP. Okay, so basically what I will do is read some of the stuff that I did research on the facts. Okay, so Sauer, we're going to go straight from that. SIG is one particular company. Sauer is another particular company. SIG is a Swiss company. Sauer is a German company. Ultimately, SIG was the designer of this gun. The manufacture and design was done by SIG. Okay. Now, what I didn't know until recently was what SIG stood for. It's Schweizerischel Industrie Gesellschaft. That's a Swiss word, of course. Schweizerischel Industrie Gesellschaft. That's the SIG. Okay, the company SIG was founded in 1853, so they've been around a long time as a weapons manufacturer. Okay, Sauer, also an old weapons manufacturer, which is a German company. They were founded in 1751. So both companies have a long-standing history of weapons, firearms manufacturing. Both SIG and both Sauer, long time standing. They both have their reputations. SIG was known for making precision quality weapons that were accurate, that were also reliable. That was one of their hallmarks. A durable, reliable, accurate gun. That's what SIG had the reputation for since their inception in 1853. So that's pretty good to have that reputation, right? And so over the years, they've kept that reputation and they still have that reputation. So what I'll do is I'll talk about some facts as it pertains to the P220 in particular, the P220. Okay, so we already went over that SIG is the Swiss side of it, Sauer is the German side of it. The reason that the two companies partnered up, SIG, the Swiss company, Sauer, the German company, was because Switzerland is a neutral, landlocked country. Okay, so even when they have the Geneva Convention, that's Geneva, Switzerland. So all the nations will meet there, hash out their differences on neutral ground. There's no shooting, no fighting, no wars going on in Switzerland because everybody is in agreement. That's the one country that we're going to leave out of all of our political crap. We're not going to get them involved. They have their own autonomy. They don't have to take sides. They don't have to side with democracy. They don't have to side with communism. They don't have to side with socialism. They don't have to get involved in anybody's garbage, and we all will respect it. That's neutral ground. It's like a no-fire zone or whatever. So that's Switzerland, okay? So because of that, it's a neutral landlocked country. They cannot export war machines, firearms, guns, and so forth because of the Status of Forces Agreement, SOFA. It's just an agreement that they won't provide weapons of war to other countries because of their neutrality. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. But since they're a landlocked, neutral country, they wanted to manufacture and sell these firearms. How can they get it done legally? They needed to form a partnership, a business partnership. That's where Sauer comes in. Sauer being a West German company, they could produce or market out to a mass market, like to other militaries or civilians, or get guns on the civilian market, which is really the intent of SIG, which was to get to the civilian market, namely in America and other free countries where you can purchase firearms. So they partnered up with Sauer, and then SIG Sauer was born, and they became a partnership business, SIG Sauer, and that's why you get the pistol. And when you look here, it says SIG Sauer right there, right? That's where that comes from. Now you know. This is all researchable information, by the way. So if you don't take my word for it, that's good. Go look it up for yourself. Okay, now after that was done, they were then able to start manufacturing a more variety of weapons, again, for the civilian market as well as the military market, because this particular gun was issued to Swiss troops. Because since the company was formed, you got to realize, again, SIG had been around since, what did I say? I wrote it all down. SIG had been around since I just read it too. 1853. And Sauer had been around since 1751. But when these guys partnered up, it was years later. And then there's like all these meetings in the Geneva Convention. They're in Geneva, Switzerland. And then there's the buzz around that the U.S. is looking for a replacement for the 1911 pistol, which had served the United States military since 1911. And here we are in 1970-ish, time frame, and they're looking to replace it. So Sig Sauer got to work really quickly and developed this gun with their engineers through meticulous design, and they knew that they needed to get a beefy, durable, robust gun if they were going to have a chance to replace the 1911 pistol that the U.S. swore by, because that was a beefy, durable, robust gun, and it lasted since 1911. And here we are, like at that time in 1970. That's a long time for that gun to be in service. So it proved itself. They knew they needed something that was going to be able to one up that or two up that. So that's where this gun comes into play. So they made it with a carbon steel upper, but then giving it some lightweight aspects of the aluminum alloy frame, which is the lower portion. So the top portion is carbon steel. The lower portion is aluminum alloy. The earlier models did not have the rail. Okay, so now what you have is this excellently designed gun that is a hammer-fired gun. That's one of the features. And it was designed to market and compete in the U.S. market for the pistol trials in Aberdeen Proving Grounds. What they didn't take into account was that the United States was already leaning towards a 9mm round for higher round capacity, and because it was universally used by NATO troops, and they wanted to have that universal appeal in case that we're stationed in Germany or Italy or whatever, where there's NATO forces and the U.S. forces, we can all use 9mm ammunition, and it's easy, for logistics. So the U.S. was already leaning towards a 9mm gun, but the company Sig Sauer had already designed and built this gun, and it was up and running and ready to go. So too late, right? So again, what they did was they were able to issue this gun to their own troops, and other countries also adopted it. Japan, the security forces in Japan purchased some. Military and other forces in Chile and in Nigeria also purchased this. Okay, so this gun was used by several countries. Okay, I'm going to read some of the stuff that I wrote down that I was researching. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of read this off and give you guys a background on what I researched. Okay, the SOFA, which is the Status of Forces Agreement, like I told you, restricted SIG from exporting this gun. So now they can do it through Sauer out of West Germany. That's why you have plants in West Germany or Germany now. Sig Sauer plants, a lot of them were there in Germany, and that's why. Okay, so this gun was designed in 1970, and it was widely mass produced after that up until around 1975, when they wanted to really get it out there, when it was more available. So they basically made an error by putting it in 45, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because 45 is a big, powerful bullet. It is very capable for stopping power, for stopping threats, human threats, as well as animal threats. So it's a great gun. It was well designed. They just thought it was going to be the desire was 45. The U.S. had a big, liking for 45 at that time, and so they designed it in 45. But they do, of course, the P226, which is like the descendant of this gun, is in 9mm, and the SIG P226 holds 15 rounds of 9mm ammo, and the Navy SEALs used it for a number of years, at least 25 years or so, something in that range. 20 to 25 years the Navy SEALs had the 9mm version of this gun, which was the SIG 226. So in essence, it worked out. This one, just being the granddaddy of them all in 45 ACP, was the SIG P220. Okay, so let me read some more. That hard-charging 1911, which was beginning to be a dated pistol, the Swiss manufacturer SIG wanted to make a tougher, more appealing, futuristic 1911 replacement that the U.S. government would potentially use for likely another 30 or 40 years or longer. Long-term contracts are definitely something that these companies want, these manufacturers, these weapons manufacturers. They want a long-term government contract, especially with the U.S. government. Okay, so that would to include service and maintenance, so they can put a bid in for all that and get paid for that. Like what I wrote here, what Sig Sauer did not take into account was the U.S. was already trying to standardize rifle and pistol and general purpose machine gun ammunition. Basically, the rifle they wanted to standardize it to 5.56 millimeter. Pistol, they wanted to standardize it to 9 millimeter. And the general purpose machine gun to standardize to 7.62 by 51 NATO. Okay, so the round capacity on this was also a factor that the U.S. military is trying to get away from, a smaller round capacity, smaller round count. And let me show you what I'm talking about. In this particular case, the magazine is a stainless steel 8-round capacity magazine. These magazines are manufactured in Italy, as it says right there. I don't know if you can see that, but it says made in Italy right there. They're well made, and as you can see, it has witness marks all the way to 8. So it starts at number 2 and goes to number 8. Round number 1 being at the top. You don't have to have a number for that. So 2 through 8. These stainless steel magazines have proven themselves to be very reliable. They're well made. So when you purchase this gun at a civilian market, you will get 2 stainless steel 8-round magazines. It just comes with 2. They are very good. They're very durable, and they feed very well. So you won't have any problems with them. You can take them apart and clean them. They're very simple to take apart and clean. You take the springs out, take the follower out, wipe it all down with like an oily rag, and then put it back together. So as you can see, the magazine feeds in from the back, and it's got a butt plate right there. You'll notice that on this particular gun, these have some aftermarket Hogue grips. I prefer those. I find them to be very comfortable around my hand. They have finger grooves, and they blend in with the gun. Some of the features of this gun are, I'll go ahead and say, the decocker, which you see right there. So weapon is empty. You already saw the magazine's empty. The decocker, as you see now, the gun is cocked. When you decock the gun, you just hit that little lever. The gun is now decocked. Cocked, decocked, cocked, decocked. Now that is one of the cooler features of the gun. It basically makes the gun safe, because now that it's in this decocked position, the trigger is at a 10-pound trigger pull. Okay, that 10 pounds is a heavy pull, but it's very smooth. Now it would cycle as you see the hammer's back. Now I'm going to release, reset. Now I'm at about a 4-pound trigger pull. So it's a lot crisper, a lot lighter. So from a 10-pound pull, bang, it cycles. Now I reset it, and it's at about a 4-pound pull, bang. So that is a big feature, that decocker. Here's your slide lock. You have the hammer right there, as you guys saw. The hammer, it's a hammer-fired gun. Decock it. And then you have your takedown lever. How the takedown lever works is lock it to the rear. You want to eject the magazine. Swing this down 90 degrees like so. Pull back just a little bit and release. You're releasing that slide lock. Remove the top slide from the frame. You see in here you have a double braided recoil spring. Lift up on that, pull that spring out. You can separate the spring from the guide rod. The guide rod is aluminum. And then the barrel lifts right out. The barrel has a uniform right hand twist, and it has 6 lands and grooves. If you look here, my trusty calipers, you can see that it is about 4.4 inches in length. Okay, so 4.4 inches. If you look at these dial calipers, it says 4.4. So the barrel is 4.4 inches in length. You can see it's stamped there, and then you have your this little cam right here. It's built in. It's a solid device, solid design, which was designed by John Moses Browning. It's like a little ramped action to give you that next round when it unlocks, when the weapon cycles, it's going to drop down a little bit, accept the next round, and then ride back up and then lock into the top of the frame or the slide. This part right here locks in the top of that. It's a genius design. But here's the thing about this gun. It's very simplistic. This is all it is. Just the slide, the barrel, the guide rod spring, and the guide rod, and of course the frame. That's it. So putting it back together is super simple. You just reinsert the guide rod into the guide rod spring on the tighter end. There's a looser end this side you want to put on the tighter end. After you do that, you want to take your barrel, put it back in. It drops right in. Then you insert the guide rod and spring, which catches on the back of that little cammed corner. This is completely put back together now. Then, while this is still at 90 degrees, you align the rails, push back on that to lock it, throw that lever back into the horizontal position. Now release again. The weapon is now put back together. You can do a function check. It decocks, it fires in double action, it fires in single action. The weapon is functional. If you look here on this side, you have a external extractor. It's been very reliable. You can see right here it says Sig Sauer Inc., Exeter, New Hampshire, USA. That is where the gun is manufactured. They closed one of their plants recently overseas. There's not a lot of information that I know about it yet, is that they just closed one of their main plants. It doesn't mean that they're out of business. It just means that they closed one of their plants, because they still have their U.S. plant as well as other countries. Okay, so some more features about the gun. There is a 9mm parabellum version known as the SIG P210, which is kind of predecessor to this. It's a different gun. Ultimately, this gun was designed in and of itself as a standalone weapon, a standalone system. But it didn't start the P series. It kind of did in its own light, where this design is unique. But originally there was a P210, which didn't pick up that. It's a good gun. It's reliable, it's safe, it's accurate. But this one just has all the bells and whistles and the features, like it's drop safe. Basically, there's a disconnect in here, so the firing pin cannot engage the primer of a round. Even if you hit that with a hammer or drop this gun, you literally have to depress the trigger in order to fire it. There's no other safety, physical locking safety. The main safety is keep your fingers straight off the trigger until you're ready to fire. Don't point the weapon at anything unless you're ready to fire, unless you intend to destroy it. Know your backstop. Like I said, keep your weapon in the holster, finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire. Decock it if you're not going to fire. Keep your finger off that trigger, and then it's in 10-pound mode right there, so it's a heavier trigger. And then if it's in 4-pound mode, it is more likely to go off with less pressure. So don't put your finger on the trigger unless you're ready to fire. So decock it, and now you have a heavier trigger pull, which is a long 10-pound pull. That's a safe gun. You have to literally purposely pull that trigger all the way back, knowing that you're going to shoot at something. So this weapon is drop safe. It has lots of little internal safety features like that. The heavy trigger, the drop safe disconnect, so that the firing pin cannot engage or strike anything, even if you drop the gun. Some other features: single action, double action, meaning right now it's in double action. So that means that's a long trigger pull. Like that, it's single action, short trigger pull. It's hammer fired, magazine fed, as you guys saw. You insert a magazine right here. Magazine fed. It has a decocker, obviously. And that's about it. So some stats on it. Basically, it is 7.79 inches in length, meaning from this end to this end, it is 7.9 inches in length overall. This is a 6-inch caliper, so I wouldn't be able to give it the whole 7 inches, 7.979 inches. The height is 5.55 inches, meaning from here to here. So that's, if I were to close that off, from tip to stern or whatever, top to bottom. Kind of hard to do this. Okay, there, a little bit closer. There. Yep. 5 point. It's about right. I got 5 point. Let's see. Oh, okay. Without the magazine, yeah. Without the magazine, it is 5.5 inches in height, and that's what it measures, 5.5 inches in height. That's strictly stats that you can get off the website. The width of the gun is 1.3 inches wide of the thickest part, which is right here. I think that's the thickest part. Oh no, actually, well, thickest part would be including that. 1.3. 1.3 inches, so it's accurate to what the stats say, because I had to include that as part of the thickness, because that sticks out. So 1.3 inches. It's a full-size duty gun. It weighs 1 pound 13 ounces unloaded, and the barrel, as you guys saw, was 4.4 inches. I measured the barrel earlier in the video. And again, the top is carbon steel, and this bottom frame is aluminum alloy. It's a beefy gun. It's comfortable in my hands. I don't know if it would be comfortable in everybody's hands, but I generally like shooting it. These sights are proprietary light, Sig light night sights. Basically, they're tritium infused, and they glow for a number of years, between 12 to 14 years of guaranteed glowing. They're irradiated, so they glow for many, many years, and you don't have to worry about them because it is a lifetime warranty on these guns. If you have a problem, send it to Sauer in New Hampshire, and they will service the gun for you for the parts and labor, as long as there's no damage that you caused. If it's something like that, they can just replace those sights. And let me see if there's anything else about this. They wanted to make it commercially available to the U.S. market because we're a big manufacturing, or a big purchaser of firearms in the United States. So they wanted to tap into that civilian market as well as the military market, which they eventually did get to the military market because the Navy SEALs were using it. A lot of police agencies use this. SWAT teams use this. For a while, the U.S. Secret Service was also issued this particular firearm for several years, but not that long, maybe 5 years, because then they got into Glocks, they got into other things, Sig Sauer 226s. But for a while, they had the Sig P220. The Sig P226, which is the 9mm, is a direct descendant of this gun. A lot of special operations units use this or the Sig 226. SEALs, Delta Force, SWAT teams all over the United States. Like I said, Secret Service agents used it. And I can't really think of too much else except for that the Swiss Army for a long time used this as their duty gun. And again, Japan, Chile, Nigeria, and Uruguay. It is manufactured in 2 calibers currently, which is 45 ACP and 10mm. I wouldn't mind having a 10mm version of this. The 10mm version would be good for dealing with bears and wild boar, stuff like that. It's a more powerful round. So another factor that somebody had brought up about stopping power when it comes to the 45 or 9mm, it's really when it comes to 9mm versus 45 versus 10mm. Number one is hits. Get hits on the target. If you don't hit the target, it doesn't matter what caliber you're shooting. You're not going to do any damage or stop any threat if you don't hit the threat. So practice marksmanship skills. Your marksmanship fundamentals matter more than the caliber. If you have a 9mm or a 357 Magnum or 45 ACP or a 10mm or a 22 long rifle, if you don't hit what you're aiming at, you can have the biggest bullet in the world. It's not going to matter. So marksmanship fundamentals matter the most. Get hits on target. That's number one. Number two, shot placement. Where did you hit that person to stop the threat, or that animal, that two-legged animal? It matters where you put the bullet. If you shoot them in the big toe, they're probably going to keep attacking you. You never know. But if you shoot them in the heart or in the head, you have more likelihood of stopping that threat. One of the things that the FBI does is they do analysis-based studies based upon traumas, trauma centers, and the biggest factor when it comes to people perishing from pistol wounds is blood loss and the tearing of the wound from the bullet traveling through the body, creating a wound channel or a cavity. Those two factors seem to be the most distinctive in traumatic injuries of shooting victims. Blood loss and the wound channel, which with a 45 creates a bigger wound channel than a 9mm. But again, that's tit for tat because some people argue caliber wars. If you have a hollow point like that, they tend to spread out more, which causes more tearing. If you're going to shoot a wild pig or a deer or a home invader, some guy trying to break into your house, if you have a hollow point, it is a self-defense cartridge versus a ball round, which is 230 grain target ammo, but it's still a defensive round as well. As you can see here, I have a variety of ball ammo and hollow points loaded into this magazine. 8 rounds plus 1 in the chamber, that adds up to 9 rounds. One way you can store it is in a Kydex holster like you see here. This one is a paddle holster. It has tension screws. You can adjust the tension. The paddle will click onto the back of your belt. This goes inside your pants, and then this kind of grabs your belt, that little part right there, and then you can adjust the angle and the height and all that kind of stuff. It's basically a piece of plastic. That's how it looks. I also have this little bad boy, which is more of a inside the waistband kind of carry. Because it has a belt clip. And that will go inside of your uniform if you're a military or police or security.